Reverend Sunshine Michelle questions. We are going to go ahead and get started. I would ask if you would be mindful of the questions you're going to ask. Multiple part questions aren't really the way to go. You want to think about at the heart of the question that you want to ask and ask that. If you would please do so. And of course, Reverend Sunshine Michelle will do the best in answering it. And then if you could just let me know when you're ready, and then we'll go to the next question.
Okay. Are we having an echo? Is
yes.
That what I'm hearing? Okay.
How do I get this to mute? Mute. There we go. I got it. Okay. So Zoe will be bringing you the microphone. So if you could just raise your hand, and Zoe will bring you the microphone. If you could ask your laser-pointed question, Reverend Sunshine Michelle will respond, and then we'll move on to the next question. I will also be looking for folks who are streaming in. They can go ahead and type in their question, and I will pepper that into as we go along with the questions. And I'll let you know when we have an online question, and we'll go forward with that. And then after that, we're going to go to lunch. So we are running a little bit behind. So if we could keep your questions, like I said, laser focused, that would be great. Is there any questions about the question session? Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Who would like to go first?
Well, can I just say, hi, y'all. I want this to be a conversation, so I hope you don't mind my seat because it's a long day, and I just want to have a conversation with you. That's why I'm seated this way. Is that all right? Yeah. Okay. I'm ready.
Wonderful.
Oh, for me, one of the most important parts of being a senior minister is the financial part of it, the business part of it. And I wanted to know how you would approach the budgeting process and how you see that integrating with the spiritual principles that we stand for.
Love your question. As I said quite often yesterday, let me start with the same thing. For me, it's going to be a listening process. I'm going to want to lean in to see what the procedures already are, to see the budget that already exists, maybe one before it, so that I know where we are in the cycle, what's on it. I ask a lot of questions, so if I don't understand, I know how to read a budget in a financial statement, but if I don't understand why something is booked that way, then ask that question so that I become familiar and can make an informed decision and contribution to how we put the budget together. So that's how I would approach it. And it's all about spiritual principle to me. So praying ahead of time in board, the budget is done by the board. And so praying about, the whole construction of how we move forward in the board, and the construction of the budget, the financial resources, honesty and candor, and to have frank conversation about where we are and what we need to do as far as planning. So there's a lot that goes into it, but that's what I'll say so far.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Hi, Reverend Sunshine. Hi. Robert Leeds, and I really enjoyed your talk today. But of course, the Sunday sermons are like 10% of the job. So I'm interested in hearing more about, just kind of how you would approach being a senior minister from more an administrative, organizational side, kind of your management style, that sort of thing.
Yeah, great question. Thank you. As you heard in my bio, I've been in not just, people think of for-profit as far as corporate, but not-for-profit as corporate too. I've been in organizations for many, many years, and at director levels and individual contributors, and have managed staff and interacted with a variety of people on an internal client base, as well as with the general organization and executives, all levels of organization. So I feel like I can jump in there and work with any level at any point with whatever's going on. That sounds pompous. I'm not trying to, but I believe that in myself. And I'm a team player. I like playing with teams, but I like to empower people. I'm all about empowerment, and there's a lot of leaders here at OCSL. And so I want to be in there to coach and to guide. I want to listen in, as I answered this gentleman's question before and all the people I talked to yesterday, because it's important to listen to what has been going on and to see what the best practices have been in order for me to make my own contributions to how we go forward. So it would be a process of, just ebb and flow within a container of, and then to, I don't want to be someone who comes in making staunch decisions and making them really quickly. It's a team effort, and I want to engage the whole community. So that's a little bit about my style. It's kind of hard to answer, in laser, but hopefully you get the gist.
Thank you for your talk today. A number of us here have wonderful memories of singing in great choirs here. What are your thoughts about how to evolve and be able to return to having a choir as part of our music?
Yeah, I was here as a part of those times too. I remember the Joy Choir and the Clarewood Singers, and I've been in other communities that have had choirs as well, including currently. And I know how instrumental music is in healing and transformation. And so I know it's a significant part of what a spiritual community is about. I also know there's a lot that goes into starting a choir, maintaining a choir, performing, the whole orchestration of it. So again, I would need to come in here and kind of hear what the strategy has been, what the vision has been. The lineup that I've seen, I do get the OCSL newsletters, has been stellar. Oh, the music has been so great. I know that's not the same as a choir. And, we have a great music ministry already. So just to look at the components and what the reasoning is for, or I don't know if it might be being entertained already. I don't have any idea. But if there's interest, there's a lot to building a choir. There needs to be interest, there needs to be talent, there needs to be orchestration, and we're thinly resourced right now coming out of the pandemic. So I wouldn't want to overly tap. I mean, we have to prioritize. So I need to come in and hear what the needs are to help prioritize. And if the community really is like, let's have a choir, well, we need to dissect what that means and kind of look at it in the scope of things. So that's how I would answer that huge question.
Hi again, Reverend Sunshine. Michelle. My question is going to piggyback on Helen's. I was going to ask you about a choir, but more than that, it's more like a question about our arts and culture. Do you have any background with theater or drama? Do you foresee any, creating fun theatrical events or something like that that would kind of bring energy in to the center?
I can't wait to do that. Presuming, if I were to be offered the position, and no, I don't have a background in theater, and I'm an event, I have planned large events, and I know how to project manage them, not that that would necessarily be my role, and I know the benefit that they can bring to an organization, as well as the choir, that takes a lot of energy and effort. But, from a fundraising perspective, actually the vision that I see, I have seen production over there in the beautiful social hall with the stage. And, I've been to many events like that. Or we could do them here. We don't have pews anymore. We have flexible seating. And so there's so much that we can do. So the simple answer is yes. I would love to do that. And I know there's a lot of expertise here in the center, and hopefully we would be attracting more as well that could help orchestrate that with quality and excellence. I'm about quality and excellence. I don't want to do it. My mother taught me, if you can't do it right, don't do it at all. So I've learned that one pretty well.
Hi there. Thanks so much for your talk today. I asked this question of the candidate last week, so I thought it would be fair to ask you as well. If you are selected as our new senior minister, what would you do during the first 6 months on the job?
It's a great question. Thank you for asking, especially from a human resources perspective. That's something I would ask a candidate as well. Again, it kind of depends. I want to orchestrate listening circles. So that wouldn't be the whole 6 months. I haven't really thought about how long I would do that for. I would time myself. So I'm thinking like 60 to, certainly 60 days, but maybe 90 days to get to all the groups and to include it, I don't want to say it as separate from, but the membership body as well, to lean in and hear what's on people's minds and then be able to at least to familiarize myself. There's some other things that kind of leads to Robert's question as well, because I would want to see policies and procedures. I want to see the budget. I want to see an org chart. I want to see and ask a bunch of questions. And, I've been in organizations before, so I kind of know how to at least start with the things that I think I want to know and then ask you what you think I need to know so that I can have a well-rounded information tool belt to be able to govern from or to be able to suggest where we go from here. So that would probably cover, a good 3 to 6 months of that. I think, rather than coming in like doing something immediately right away, unless, as they say, it's low-hanging fruit, something that we need to do now that maybe has less cost but high impact, then I'm all for that. But, we have to assess what that is. I saw that hand and this hand.
Sorry.
Yeah, that one and then this.
And then Karma.
So I see that you were at 10 CSLs. You said you were actively participating in 10, and that you were here at Oakland CSL as well. So how do you balance? Because we do have a lot of people who have been here a while, and we do have people who maybe are new from the last, 5 to 10 years. So how do you balance knowing how the center used to be with bringing in your own fresh ideas, and maybe give me an example of one fresh idea that you think you might want to bring into the center to put your own kind of mark on it?
Mm-hmm. Well, I know how it was, at least during the time that I was here twice, for a block of years. So I feel like I have a good understanding of at least those time frames that were significant. But to talk to people, I believe in relationship and to get a sense. But I think I have an overall sense of some of where we have been here at OCSL and as First Church, even before the merger happened. And what else was I going to say to you? And going forward, a fresh idea that I have, and the listening in that you've heard me talk about will help me to hear, like, I believe there's probably the long-timers who have a certain idea of how things should be or was or they want it to be, and the newcomers, and as I listen in, I will be able to, that's part of the reason for that, to be able to tease out, like, not even tease out, to see what the holistic piece of it is. One of the ideas that Spirit downloaded, and that's why I refer to Spirit, because I'm doing what I'm hearing. It's all about me doing what I'm hearing. So I love this one. It's about I don't have the wording for it yet, but it's like not a rap session. What am I trying to say? A tag team kind of event on a different day than a Sunday to help attract younger people and families. So if we partnered with a youth agency, let's say my son Freddie, who is 27 and a beautiful young man in the world, and so is my cousin Kyle, who's here, and he's a little underneath him. They have a hand on what the young people want. I'm on the older side of the spectrum. So to partner with some of the agencies perhaps, or do some research that we can partner with them and perhaps have an event where they have one of their up and coming to do spoken word and along with me kind of tag teaming with them. Just think of who that would bring. That would bring our membership base here. It would bring the people from the agency. It would bring younger people, I'm hoping. So I would like to do different things like that. If we decide it's within the priority scheme, but at some point we're going to have to step our toe in the water.
Hi, Reverend Sunshine. Hi. So good to see you. Your talk was wonderful. I'd like you to tell us a little bit about yourself, your trials and tribulations you've gone through, where you've allowed Spirit to really work for you in your life. What are some of the things that you've gone through as a person?
I love that question. What comes to mind, Carmen? You could, well, maybe you can't tell. I'm a minister that lives out loud. I go through whatever I go through, and I work through it with spiritual principle. And sometimes I don't always get there, but as I find that I've made some progress, I'll talk about it on the pulpit. I will bring it into a talk so that it can perhaps inspire someone else, not to live so much out loud that I'm bleeding on the pulpit. I don't mean that, but I mean so that people can see that I'm a real live person, that you saw those pictures up there, that I know how to play. I know that I live a life that gets mired in dirty like anybody else. And so an example, Carmen, is that the last few years have been really tough for me. They've been tough for a lot of us with COVID. That's why I'm offering the workshop that I'm offering, because we've had so many endings and so many beginnings and so many things that are changing in our life. And I finished my doctorate a couple of years ago when we were really on lockdown, and my job at the time was changing. A 4-month unpaid furlough ended in layoff. And so that's why I just barely was able to finish the doctorate. I was like praying through it, and that's what got me through it. That's the only thing that got me through it and got me complete. But then there was this middle ground of like, what now? It's like, I was hearing, no, I don't know that I'm going back in HR, but it's like, well, how do you make money? How do you make money? How do you pay your bills? How do you do this or that or the other? So it's like, how do you blend these two? So that is when I heard the call to apply for this pulpit, was a part of my exploration to do as my doctorate is all about, which is to live authentically. It's about authenticity and self-expression and living full out of who you are, in my mind. And that's what I attempt to do. So what I'd like to do is to be able to, in my livelihood, bring everything that I have to bear, my business skills, my spiritual leadership and skills, into the same job. Because up until now, it's always been separate. I've been doing this over, and I didn't have to, that was by choice, but I've been doing this over here in an organization and doing my spiritual stuff over here, perhaps sometimes because it wasn't accepted or encouraged over here. I want to show up as me with all my skills and be able to, show my brilliance and help other people be brilliant. But it's not an easy path, but that's an example.
I have a question about the implementation of authenticity. A couple of years ago, it wasn't just a year or so ago, I did interviews with a lot of people and we did a special village news every week. And this was both around Black Pride, and it was also around LGBTQ. And one of the things that I heard from a lot of people when I interviewed them was that they had certain parts of themselves that they had to modify in order to fit in to the larger Oakland Center community. And so I have a question for you about how do you deal with that aspect of authenticity when we have a commitment to diversity, and yet what does that really mean if someone has to put a filter on who they are?
Oh, I love that question. It's so sweet and juicy. It really is. It's a quandary, Constance. It's a quandary. What I know from my own personal experience is I think of my grandmother, and I've adopted her phrase. She's on the other side. She said she's wholly bold in God. She's a very religious woman. And I want to be like that. I strive to be like that, where I'm wholly bold with who I am and how I show up. Now, sometimes that's not popular, but we have to find, I believe, the courage within to show up. That's why people come out of the closet if they're same gender loving, because they find that holy boldness. And one of the tenets in my dissertation is the IDC factor, the I don't care factor. And that might sound harsh, and I don't mean that I don't care about you, but I had to learn to not care what other people thought about me so that I could stand up as to who I am. And so we need to, in order to do that, it takes my own inner work, but it also, regardless of if anybody supports me, but the other side of that equation is what you're talking about, is how are you in community where you are loved and supported that way? And I think, it's where the rubber meets the road, as they say. And what I would encourage us all to do, that's why I want to have listening circles. And part of that is going to be, hey people, we need to listen in. And we need to hold ourselves accountable. I'm really not playing when I say let peace begin with me. It's let diversity begin with me. Let my own thinking begin with me. And unless we're willing to take a look at our thinking that may have that implicit bias, or our thinking that will walk away so quickly when there's change or when someone says something, as opposed to going to open up conversation with them to learn more about where they were coming from. Unless we challenge ourselves, we're not going to get there. So, the how, I'm not exactly sure, but I think I love circles and I love small groups. And I like the indigenous circle format that creates a safe space for people to be honest about how they're feeling, for people to be heard, for me to create a space where you can say what you feel, and then from a place that then I'm not going to be defensive, because I've agreed not to be defensive. And then we can get somewhere in relationship and we learn, but it's hard and it takes a lot of work. So it's not just about lip service. I'm sorry this is a long-winded answer, but it's a big question. It's not lip service. It's like, are you serious? Do you really, if we're a world that if we want to be a world that works for everyone, then we have to do the work. Is OCSL one of those places? If it is, then here's what it takes. And don't run when it gets hard. Tell me what it is, or tell us what it is that is troubling you, and find a way to do it in language that is not violent, that check yourself around how, even if you don't understand it, if somebody is telling you that they are offended by the way you said something, or because you said this or that or other, then check yourself so that you can listen to that undefended, to be able to hear with compassion. It's a engaging work. So I know you know that, because I know you're doing that. But that's what it's going to take. And I'm ready to roll my sleeves up. I want to be in community like that. And I believe there's people in here who want to do that. I believe that it will be hard for some people and they'll stay. And I do believe there will be some people who will leave. And it's just the nature of how it goes.
How do you plan on supporting youth and family, and including the youth? Because that was one of the big things that has kept me coming here, it was a place for my children as well. And in previous communities, when new ministers have come, I've seen youth and family kind of go away. So what is your vision for our youth and family, and how to embrace them as a part of this community?
Oh, I love that. Thank you for asking. I think we need to be youth and family friendly. Like, if we're going to, have activities that cater to youth and families coming, and how we interact together. And I met with youth and family yesterday with Jackie O and Diane, and You know, she said, one of them said, when we came back from the pandemic, it's all different with the way we engage with the children. So I believe I'd have, that's a listening circle for me, to be able to hear what, matter of fact, Jackie and Diane asked the children, they sat me in the room up there where the board, there was writing all on the boards, and my eye caught something over there, and it said, new minister, and I started looking at it, and it said, it said, don't leave us out. It said, just ask. It said, no gray-haired thinking mindset. Well, you know, I'm a Goldilocks, so you don't know if I have the gray or not. But anyway, so it's, you know, I loved that they were asked and that they said, this is what we need to hear, but it's also about engaging the parents. You know, we were talking about the youth and family, like they only have them for an hour. And I know the parents are wanting to come so that they can pay attention to the service. How do we do both of them? You know, they put TV monitors in there and whatever, but how do we engage the parents? How do we do youth and family differently so that it engages everybody? How do we integrate the families into the service so that, you know, they say this is the big church. And they were saying that back in the day when I was here. And they're the little church. You know, it's like, that's separation. So how do we, and you know what I said yesterday, and I will go on record saying it today. I don't have all the answers. I really don't. But together we can find them. I'm open and willing. I have skill sets I can bring to it, and I know everybody else does too, so that we can solve this together. And let me end on this. Youth and family is important. I have a son, you heard me say, who was in youth and family. It was in my bio. He was in his teen years, in his formative years. His best friend is still his best friend today that he met over there. They're still best friends. And she has moved over to Hawaii, and he's here. They're still best friends. So it's really critical and important. Thank you for asking the question.
Folks, we're going to give this just 10 more minutes.
Reverend Michelle, we talk about listening. You speak a lot about listening and listening circles. Listening is a skill, and it is an art. And I'm thinking that in order to really benefit from listening circles, I think we need to do a class about listening. I know as a practitioner, one of the main aspects of our curriculum, if you will remember, was to listen. It was a learning skill that we don't all have. And one of the things that occurs to me when you are talking about it is that formulation in our head about what am I going to answer to you, to your listening. Mm-hmm. So I think listening is brilliant, and it's a learned skill.
Yeah, I love that, Susan. You know, I'll be, if I'm selected, let's follow up on that, you know. And it starts with, in my mind, in a listening circle, it starts with ground rules. And the ground rules would incorporate some of the things you're talking about so that somebody can empty themselves and hold themselves accountable and listen and not just be defended and check themselves. Because you can, you know, you can catch yourself. Like I said this morning, you can catch yourself you can catch yourself checking out. We know when we're checking out. And who's going to bring us back? We need to bring ourselves back. The speaker might or something else might, but we have to check ourselves. So I love that. It's about ground rules.
Hi, thank you. What are your experiences in implementation after the listening?
Oh, that's a great question, Alice. Implementation after the listening. So we have to kind of get it out in the open, whatever the it is, and that may take several conversations. You know, communication is key in here, where how we learn, where I was talking about relationship, how we build relationship together. And so it's not just about the listening. I love your question. It's not passive. Listening is active, and it requires something, like you're saying. Implementation, you know, signifies maybe like a plan, or what I'm getting is what is the action that you take. And that depends on what we're listening from, what we're listening to, and where we're trying to go. Are we trying to resolve conflict and build a good relationship? Then maybe the implementation is a plan around how we nurture that relationship as we, if it's two people or however many, go forward. If it's something that, you know, is a different kind of action, like we need to be proactive and do this thing over here, like change a policy, or like, you know, because this, let's say hypothetically that we're listening in and somebody is saying, well, you know, I'm not coming back, you know, I haven't been here, I'm coming back here because before I didn't feel heard, and I, you know, didn't want to participate, and I tried to participate and no one was listening. And so, well, what were you saying, or what was it you're trying to say? So tease that out, and do we need to then, is it an implementable idea? Is it something that we need to go forward with as a community? So I think it kind of depends on what it is, but then I'm hoping there would be action after that. Or else it doesn't do any good to do the listening, because we'll revert back into the same behavior unless we change.
Yeah, hi, my name is John. Seen you speak before, I'm usually in the back.
Oh, hi.
You mentioned that you've been a part of many other CSL communities, and I know that we're not even the only community looking for a minister right now. So I'm curious why you selected this community for this position, what you see as our strengths and weaknesses, and since I know you've been around, you've come and spoken here before, so you might already have some ideas of what things you might add or take away, what you might change if you were to have the position.
I wasn't sure on the last part of your question, but what I heard you say is why this center. I wasn't sure about the last part. It's really pretty simple. It's about the call. I heard the call. I know how Spirit speaks to me. And I don't know what Spirit, I pray into on my altar most every day that I live on purpose and that I live in service to life. Because I actively intend to be a part of this world that is transforming and changing. And I know that I am gifted in a lot of ways. So how am I going to serve, in what community, and how? In my leadership. And I heard the call to this community. I'm not sure why, you know, but I did, to be totally transparent, I read the packages for both other Bay Area centers that have open pulpits, and they did not call to me. And there's probably a variety of reasons why that was, but I was really, it's really pretty plain and simple. I heard the call. I'm familiar with this community. I know it's gone through a lot of changes. I feel like I would fit in here and that I might be a good leader here. And so that was it, really.
We can take one more.
Thank you. Hi, Reverend. I just wanted to ask, I think I'm kind of piggybacking on John here. You know our community. What do you see as the greatest need here? And if you don't see the greatest need, what would be your focus here?
Well, I do know the community, but I don't know what I don't know. I've lived long enough with wisdom, you know, that came up on that slide today, and you want a wise leader. I'm wise enough to know that there's some stuff that I don't know about. And maybe that's good. And you know, I'm one that can hold anything, I believe. You know, working in human resources, where you're a fellow human resources person, you know that. We have to hold a lot. And so I want to get underneath to, especially if the underneath is going to hold us back. Like, we can do all the work we want to up here, but if there's some festering stuff down here, we're not going anywhere. So it's about consciousness. It's about the teaching. It's the combination that you talked about. It's the administrative. It's the spiritual leadership from the pulpit. It's about the community. You know, the job of a minister is a big one, to be able to do that. But I believe I'm up for the task. And so anyway, so going on to the other part of your question, what is my vision? You know, I would love to help how do I say? I would love to help what I think I hear and see of OCSL wanting to move forward in some areas, but now I'm seeing they're a little stuck. Not they, but it's like, there's perhaps some factions, I don't know if I want to call it that, or, maybe a lack of agreement and alignment on things or what have you, and to get at what that is. Here's something else I've been hearing a lot in my vision that goes to your question is I've been hearing two things. The listening you've heard a lot about, but bridging. My ministry right now here, if I were selected, is about bridging. I want to bridge to other communities and reach out to them so that we can do things like simulcast and, creative things perhaps. I don't even know, I'd have to partner with the technology people because I don't know how that would work. But we would work that out. But I see that we're going to have to think outside of the box if we want to still play and engage, still play. We've been around for 75 years. I mean, we're not going to stop now, but things have changed so significantly that the way it was over there is not how it is now. It's a different time. And so even though there's people who have been around this community for many, many years, the reality of it is we can't stay there. We have to come current and bring some of those things with us. One of the practitioners asked me yesterday, I love the question, and I'm still pondering it, is what is your relationship to what you believe? What we believe, we in Science of Mind, what we believe. And so it's like, or do you practice that? And well, I want the community to be practicing that, and if we do what we need to do, we will move. But if we don't, we won't. So there's a variety of things that I'm hoping that we can engage in, but it's almost like I said, the soft knees, it's like I'm not even sure what the vision would be until I hear where everybody is. I don't even know if y'all would be with me. Like I had a question that I want to flip back in our maybe 2 minutes here that maybe you just take away and ponder is what is your appetite, readiness, preparedness for change? It's more than a notion to say that you're ready, but are you? I don't want to say that so strongly because I don't mean it that way, but I want us to be thinking about, do we leave just because there's a commotion? I believe for change, there's beauty in the midst of chaos. Not that we have to go to chaos, but we need to have some movement. Then we're going to need to have some change to the current to see how we do church going forward.
Thank you very much, Reverend Michelle. Thank you, folks. It's time to eat.
Are we done?
We are done.
We are done.
I'm off this hot seat, huh? I'm still Mike, though.
I just want to shake your hand.
Oh.
I think you're wonderful.
Oh, thank you. Tell me your name.
Folks, let's take this
Joanne.
outside.
Thank you,
We have a
Joanne.
lot to do yet. Let's keep going.
So you want to go in the back, we can take out off your mic?
But I probably need to, can you turn my mic off?
Yeah, I'll go talk.
You're on mute. I have it on mute here.
And I think this can stay here. I will eat, and then what I need are my materials, and then there's a table in the back.
You want the table over there?
Yeah.
You gonna take care of them? Yeah, thank you. Yeah.